Overseas now, and tension is rising in Hong Kong ahead of the first elections since the city was shut down by pro-democracy demonstrators 2 years ago. Young activists are increasingly venting their frustration at China's government, accusing Beijing of trying to strip the former British colony of its liberties. They say a recent series of chilling abduction cases shows Hong Kong's freedom of speech is at stake. China correspondent Bill Birtles reports.
Hong Kong is a city divided. For the past 2 years, the prosperous financial hub has seen simmering anger boil over.
People have hatred against each other. Some people started to submit. Some people started to leave Hong Kong permanently.
In Hong Kong suburbs, a generational battle is playing out. It's being led by young radical students who want independence.
Freedom, I think, is the most essential value of Hong Kong because our descendants, they came to Hong Kong because they want freedom, liberty. And on top of that, democracy, our pursuit for democracy is also one of the very core values.
Edward Leung is the poster boy of the pro-independence movement, but he's been banned from standing for election, and he's often accused of being anti-Chinese.
Well, first I need to clarify that we are not the ones who are racist. We are not the ones who hate Chinese. We just hate some behaviors done by Chinese in Hong Kong. That's the most important thing.
Hong Kong's radical pro-independence groups formed after the mass protest movement 2 years ago that brought the city to a standstill. Demonstrators wanted and failed to achieve fully free elections. While there are some pro-independence contenders this weekend, they've been forced to sign a statement recognising China's rule.
After 19 years of the transfer of sovereignty, is it becoming better or worse? It's very obvious that it's getting worse. So what is the source of the problem? The manipulation from Beijing. We should choose our government. We should have the freedom of speech.
The concerns about freedom of speech really are growing here. Hong Kong's special set of laws make it a liberal outpost of China. So that means gossipy titles about Chinese leaders, especially about the President Xi Jinping, are freely sold on the streets here. If you try to sell a book like this in the mainland, you wouldn't get too far. But over the past year, a chill has gone through the local publishing industry here.
We've come to meet a man who's spent more than 20 years selling books that are banned on the mainland. Lam Wing Ki now lives in a safe house, and several undercover police protect him at all times when he goes out. To the Chinese government, he's the enemy.
I was handcuffed, blindfolded and had to put on a cap. Then we took the train for more than 10 hours to a detention centre in the mainland city of Ningbo. I still have no idea where exactly it was. I was held in a small cell. I changed into prison clothing and spent the night there. The next morning, the interrogation began.
Mr. Lam was one of 5 staff from a Hong Kong bookshop who one by one disappeared late last year. After months of silence from Beijing, they all turned up on Chinese TV in February, appearing to confess.
Everything was a forced act, with scripts and lines. I can attest to that. They said I illegally mailed books and magazines to China. They charged me. I did mail them there because it's legal to do so in Hong Kong. I haven't broken any laws here.
Mr. Lam was finally allowed to return to Hong Kong in June. One of his 4 colleagues is still in jail, and the others won't speak out.
After a few months detained, I started to have psychological issues due to loneliness. The others dare not talk about what happened because the safety of their families is being threatened. They have family members in China. I only had a girlfriend, which means I may suffer the least if I talk about what happened.
Lam Wing-Ki lives in fear that China's secretive security agents may target him again. But others in Hong Kong doubt his story.
I mean, it's okay to say you were tortured, and you were kidnapped and tortured, right? Mentally tortured. And then the facts show that it was not the case at all. You were having a good time, with your mistress. Then people would say, come on,
Businessman Robert Chow runs a small online media outlet with a local political focus.
When you look at it, what does an independence movement in a place like Hong Kong take us? If you look at history, the easiest path from independence movement to move into would be terrorism. And I mean, we have had cases in which people have been arrested with bombs, manufacturing bombs, right? Do we want that to happen to Hong Kong? Do we want to become another sort of Syria, Middle East and all that? No, we don't.
Robert Chow is hoping for a strong showing by pro-Beijing candidates this weekend. He rejects claims China's influence will be damaging to Hong Kong.
I think China is slowly moving up to its own kind of democracy. If you talk about freedom, they have a lot of freedom in China. I mean, it used to be that you can't move from city to city. Now you can do that quite easily. You can change jobs whatever you like. Unlike, in the 60s and 70s, you're given a job and you've got to stay there, you can't move.
They certainly don't have free speech up there.
Well, okay, they have free speech. They do have to. You go down, you're based in Beijing, you go down and go to a bar, whatever, and talk to the Chinese people. Since when are they worried about talking about, the current government? No, I mean, this is not Iran or Iraq, right?
A strong showing by the pro-independence parties in this weekend's election would be likely to keep tensions brewing in this city. And even though they face challenges just getting on the ballot, the young radical activists say they're in for a long fight to protect Hong Kong's status as a liberal outpost of China.
So like 10 years later, or I don't know when we, this generation, when we wise, when we occupy different roles in society, in different industry, different aspects, we might have a chance to change. Because once you go radical, it's hard to go back.
China correspondent Bill Birtles with that story.